Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatyadeshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Nitai Gaura Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to all of you. Today we will have the coverage of the concluding verses of Isopanishad, the study of which we started quite long back. So we will move fast to cover the last section of the Isopanishad, the 4 shlokas. I will not go through the line by line of purport of each shloka, but to the best of my knowledge and ability, I'll try to summarize and read the portions of the purports for in the 4 shlokas. But in one shloka, we will read the full purport, and then we will end the session with trying to recapture the essence or a brief bullet points of Isopanishad and the learning from there, so that we can continue to remember the important scripture. Yeah, Hare Krishna. So we are going to start from mantra 16. I'll share my screen now. This is the last part of Isopanishad where the reader or the devotee is basically addressing the Lord in first person. Till the mantra 15, the Isopanishad goes with a third person. It says that there is a God, you have to see God, everything in relation with him. Now, and he's independent. People think that he's not independent, and people think that demigods are independent, and Vidya, every concept that is explained in third person. But from 16th to the end of this Isopanishad, you'll see the seeker of knowledge and the author also are directly addressing the Lord in first person, though not by name, but by first person. So mantra 16 basically tells, "O my Lord, O perennial philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal supreme personality of the Godhead, like unto the sun, as I am. As am I. Okay, you are the eternal supreme personality of the Godhead, like unto the sun, as am I. So, so in this shloka, he's addressing the Lord as with his attributes, and he's also addressing the supreme personality of the God, like unto the sun, as I am I. It also indicates that there's a qualitative relationship between us and the Lord. And the basic request in this prayer is that he wants to see the devotee, he or she wants to see the Lord in his original form, and according to him, that is covered with the effulgence. His face or his body is covered with effulgence. So he wanted that effulgence to be removed. That means he wanted to go cross the, what we call it as a Brahma Jyoti, to see the Lord in person. And the 17th shloka basically reminds the Lord about the typical kind of entitlement that devotee might sometimes feel that he can have by practicing devotional service. Even though it's not a forced entitlement or a misplaced entitlement, it's devotee's relationship with the Lord that makes him feel that Lord has to give him the needed protection, just like a child feels protected in the midst of the parents, and he or she might also feel entitled to have that protection because he or she is their offspring, right? So like this, mantra 17 goes, let this temporary body be burned to ashes and the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices because you are the ultimate beneficiary. Please remember that all that I have done for you. So here, the person is saying that when I die, nothing will be there from my body perspective. But you kindly remember what all I have done to you, and all the sacrifices were done because you are the ultimate beneficiary. You have benefited, like you are the bhokta. You have enjoyed the results of my sacrifices. So kindly remember me at the time of my death. And the 18th shloka goes, O my Lord, as powerful as fire. He is again talking about another attribute of the Lord. O omnipotent one, now I offer you all the obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, it's an important submission that he's doing as a part of Sharanagati. Please free me from the reactions to my past sins so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. So here the seeker or the devotee is surrendering, and he's also confessing that he did make some mistakes in the past, and he's requesting the Lord to free him from the reactions of the past sins so that he can move forward. So these are the shlokas. And of course, the mantra 15 is a prelude to the last section of Isopanishad. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. So these are the things. So last part of Isopanishad should be remembered as a prayer of the devotee. So in the mantra 16, if we go, as I told you, that Ushan ekakshre yama surya prajapatya vyuharasam samuha tejo yatte rupam kalyanathamam tatte pasyami Yoso asau purushaso aham asmi. So obviously when such shlokas come about the effulgence and to see the Lord as it is, to understand the Lord as it is. So the topic of personalism, impersonalism comes. So in these purports also, Srila Prabhupada does these things. More so in the 15th verse. If you go back to the 15th verse, it talks about the effulgence and removal of that effulgence from the face of the Lord so that one can see the Lord as it is. Yeah, it is loading up. Kindly bear with me. Yeah, I think sometimes if I stop share, it comes faster. Yeah. Okay. So now this is the thing, right? Hiranya mayena patrena satyasya sasya satyasapi pititam satyas api hitam mukham tattvam pumsan apavrunyu satya dharmaya drishyate. So in this purport, if you see, "O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure Lord." So when such shlokas come, obviously Srila Prabhupada again re-emphasizes the fact that Lord is supreme, is a supreme personality, and is a Godhead. Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead, and he has a personal form to be meditated upon. So it's a long purport, but in the end is what is the crux comes. So we will read the end. Yeah, Prabhu, 1 second, Prabhu. Kindly bear with me.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, you're able to see now? Yeah, can someone read this paragraph?
Hare Krishna Prabhupada. Perfect knowledge means knowing Krishna as the root of this Brahman effulgence. This knowledge can be gained from such scriptures as Srimad Bhagavatam, which perfectly elaborates the science of Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the author Srila Vyasadeva has established that one will describe the supreme truth as Brahman and Paramatma or Bhagavan according to one's realization of him. Srila Vyasadeva never states that the supreme truth is a jiva, an ordinary living entity. The living entity should never be considered the all-powerful supreme truth. If he were the supreme, he would not need to pray to the Lord to remove his dazzling cover so that the living entity could see his real face.
Yeah. So yeah, the important thing is perfect knowledge means knowing Krishna as the root of this Brahman effulgence. Okay. So there is the wording is important here. But sometimes because of some constructs and the way the Vedas, the truth is revealed in an abstract form. The knowledgeable people who perceived this path of self-realization somehow came to understand that perfect knowledge means Krishna as Brahman or Brahman as Krishna. No, they are different. He's a root of Brahman. So there is a very difference, right? Something is a root of something is different from it is same, right? So Krishna is the root of the Brahman effulgence. So there is Brahman effulgence is also a reality. But there is a origin or a owner or the root of that Brahman realization. But that Brahman realization is not the source. Brahman realization is the effulgence of the body of the Lord. So the transcendentalists, the people who want to describe or understand the supreme truth, end here only, because they think that Brahman is the Lord. But whereas other transcendentalists know, they know that it is not only Brahman. There is a Paramatma in the form of a form of Brahman, an attribute of Brahman that is sitting inside our heart. So they meditate on that. But the people who are in the path of devotion, they take this path of understanding the Bhagavan. And this line is coming from a famous Srimad Bhagavatam Shlokam, Vadanti Tat Tattva Vidas, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Iti Bhagavan. So there are three aspects of it. So in our Sampradaya, in our Pantha of devotion service, we consider Lord as Bhagavan, one who has got a thing, but we also do not negate or contradict that Bhagavan doesn't have effulgence. No, he has effulgence, but his face is covered by the effulgence. Okay? And the conclusion is that one who has no knowledge of the potencies of the Supreme Truth will realize the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, when one realizes the material potencies of the Lord, but has little or no information of the spiritual potencies, he attains Paramatma realization. Thus, both Brahman and Paramatman realization of absolute truth are partial realization. So they are also realization, but they are partial. However, when one realizes the Supreme Person of the Godhead, Sri Krishna in full potency, after the removal of Hiranyamaya Patra, one realizes Vasudevaha Sarvamitihi. The Lord Krishna, who is known as the Vasudeva, is everything, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. He is Bhagavan, the root, and Brahman and Paramatma are his branches. If we understand this, then we understand the one of the important aspects of that is being told in the Isopanishads, where the seeker of the knowledge is also saying to the Lord that please remove your effulgence and we want to see your thing. And the details of the people who want to worship him as impersonal Brahman, Jnanis, Paramatmas are the yogis, and the people who want to worship him as Bhagavan, they are devotees. So this is how it is. So Jnanis are there, yogis are there, devotees are there. And in some aspects, even in the devotees, there could be an element of jnana type of worship, there's an element of yogi type of worship. It can be mixed, but predominantly devotees rely on the fact that Lord is there, he's person, he's approachable, he appears and stays in a place, he does his pastimes there, and our ultimate goal is to go there and to serve him. So this is the so if we understand this, he who follows Bhakti Yoga constantly engaged in the service of the Lord is the highest. Isopanishads direct us towards this perfection. So one of the fundamental things that we learn from Isopanishad is that it directs us towards a perfection of understanding that one needs to seek the Lord as he is, but not the Lord that is appearing to us or experience that we are experiencing through his effulgence. So this is one important point. And next shloka is where I want us to concentrate. This is if you want to remember Isopanishads, in my opinion, very well. First and second verses of Isopanishad and the 17th verse of Isopanishad is one thing there one can by heart. Because this, I will tell you when I summarize why these two, why 1 and 2 and 17 are, in what way they are connected. So it's Vayor Anilam Amrutam Athedam Bhasmantam Shariram Om Krato Smara Kratam Smara Krato Smara Kratam Smara. Okay. So if I request some of the devotees also, 1 or 2 devotees, you can volunteer to chant this shloka.
I will try, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Vayur anilam amritam atetam basmantam sariram om kritosmara kritam smara kritosmara kritam smara.
Yeah, Kratosmara, Kratam Smara, Kratosmara, Kratam Smara. So it's also easy to remember the shloka. The reason is because the almost this third and fourth line are repeating. So we have to only remember 3 lines. So that way, it is 25% discount is already there. So I request if some of you can take this as your New Year resolution to by heart this shloka and also try to understand the meaning. Okay. Any other devotee wants to read this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Vayuranilam amurtam atedam pasmantam shariram Om krato smara kritam smara krato smara kritam smara. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So here, let this temporary body be burnt into ashes. Bhasma, athedam bhasmantam seriram. Okay. And let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. So when we die, we're cremated or buried and everything is finished, right? Now, oh my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices. And because you are the ultimate beneficiary. So basically he's telling that I have done a sacrifice, I have done the yajna, I have done the kratu. Kratam means all that is done by me. Please remember, because you are the beneficiary, right? You have to remember because you have been benefited by my yajna. So this is a very interesting liberty. I would say that devotee is taking with the Lord out of the connection and the relationship that he has got, because he has come to a platform of understanding that Lord is a person. So when you know that somebody is a person and is a person that whom you can interact, you can be dependent on. So naturally, you don't have anything shy to talk to Lord like this, right? Just as a way, the child also can feel, that parents has to do something to him. At the same time, at one point in time in life, parents also may expect something from the kid, because they say that we have done a lot of sacrifices to you. So you are the beneficiary of our sacrifices. You have come up so well in the life. So you're supposed to do something to us. It's not right. It may not be right in a pure material form, but in terms of a relationship, a sustaining relationship, that is okay. So he said, because of you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. So basically, they're making Lord to remember what they have done. So in that way, they're remembering the Lord. And that way they're telling us this is the mood of us, so that we should be able to be in a position to ask Lord this, right? If we have not done proper sacrifices, if we have not led a proper life, there is no way we can pray to the Lord at the end of our life, right? Or even during the life, because we have not done anything. And so he has not been a beneficiary of any of our deeds, right? So in order to fulfill this kind of a relationship, if we practice a life of devotion, so automatically we get entitled for this kind of a relationship. We don't have to really pray to him like this. He will definitely remember anyway. but it is there. So here in the purport, it says temporary material body is certainly a foreign dress. Bhagavad Gita clearly states that after the destruction of the material body, the living entity is not annihilated, nor does he lose his identity. The identity of the living entity is never impersonal or formless. On the contrary, it is the material dress that is formless and that takes a shape according to the form of an indestructible person. It's a very interesting line, right? We think that our body has got a form. So here in the purport, Prabhupada is mentioning that body doesn't have a form. And that takes shape according to the form of the indestructible person. So this is a point that we can really meditate upon. It looks like a very a statement that probably we would not hear so often. Yeah, it's sometimes we can't even believe that, right? If somebody says that your body doesn't have a form, we see a form, right? So the fact that we assume that body has a form because we have identified with the body, but we don't realize that body takes a form based on the soul that is there in the body. So no living entity is originally formless, as is wrongly thought by those with poor fund of knowledge. This mantra verifies the fact that living entity exists after the annihilation of the material body. So in the material body, here basically Srila Prabhupada again explains quite a lot of things. And this is an interesting, I'll go to the down. Okay, here in the material world, material nature forces the living entity to change his body due to his different desires for sense gratification. These desires are represented in the various species of life, from germs to the most perfected material bodies, those of Brahma and the demigods. All of these living entities have bodies composed of matter in different shapes. The intelligent man sees oneness not in the variety of the body, but in the spiritual identity. Because body is just a dress. The spiritual spark, which is part and parcel of Supreme Lord, is the same whether he is in the body of a hog or in the body of demigod. The living entity takes on different bodies according to the pious or vicious activities. Human body is highly developed and has full consciousness. According to Bhagavad Gita 7:19, the most perfect man surrendered unto Lord after many births of culturing knowledge. Bahunam janma namante jnanavan mam prapadnyat. Vasudevam sarvamiti. That shloka. The culture of knowledge reaches perfection only when the knower comes to the point of surrendering unto Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Otherwise, even after retaining the knowledge of one spiritual identity, if one does not come to the point of knowing that the living entities are eternal parts and parts of the whole, can never become the whole, one has to fall down again into the material atmosphere. Indeed, one must fall down even if he has come one with the Brahma Jyoti. So again, Srila Prabhupada goes into describing Brahma Jyoti and other things. The other important thing that he mentions is in this mantra, the living entity prays to enter the spiritual kingdom of the Lord after relinquishing his material body and material air. This is our ultimate desire, right? To get back to Godhead. The devotee prays to the Lord to remember his activities and the sacrifices he has performed before his material body is turned into ashes. He makes his prayer at the time of death with full consciousness of his past deeds and of the ultimate goal. One who is completely under the rule of material nature remembers that the heinous activities he performed during the existence of this material body, and he consequently gets another body after death. So here it says Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavan. So here the devotee who is praying this, he is having Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam. His bhava is to go and ultimately reach God, right? That's why he's asking him to remember all his activities. So here Srila Prabhupada gives the example of importance of the human life, human form of consciousness that we have. And then he reminds us the important things that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita, particularly line 34. So, and again, because this shloka talks about the devotee or the seeker of Lord, talking about heinous activities, Srila Prabhupada gives and refers to Bhakti Vinod Thakur and says that, devotees, even though they make incidental mistakes or they go distracted from the path of self-realization, they commit some mistakes, but Krishna takes care of them by protecting them. And this is the thing that Krishna wants Arjuna to tell all the people, right? And again, Srila Prabhupada goes back to the point of Brahma Jyoti and impersonalism in this detailed explanation. And then he suggests that it's important, all the facilities suggested in this mantra can easily be obtained by constant contact with the personal feature of the Absolute Lord, Absolute Truth. Devotion's service to the Lord consists of essentially 9 transcendental activities. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of 9, because here this point is touched, in my opinion, because one may find that how can somebody can go to a stage of asking the Lord to remember what all he has done. But by going through the process of 9 devotional process given by Prahlad Maharaj, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Atma, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. These 9 processes is given, and then he talks about the examples also. He says, by hearing the Lord, Shravanam, Parikshit Maharaj became a great hero and attained the great desire. And by Kirtanam, Shukadeva Goswami became the speaker of the Bhagavatam and became perfect. By praying to the Lord, Akrura, who is uncle of the Lord's, who was given the task of bringing Lord Krishna and Balaram from their home to Mathura. And Akrura, throughout the journey, when he was going from Mathura, he was praying. So Akrura he got the desired result of seeing the Lord and getting the Lord darshan as Krishna and Balaram, as the children, and also as the Supreme Personality of the Godheads. By remembering the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj attained the desired result. By worshipping the Lord, Prithu Maharaj attained the perfection, because Prithu Maharaj did so many yajnas. And by serving the lotus feet of the Lord, Goddess of Fortune, Lakshmi became perfect. And by rendering the service to the Lord, Hanuman attained the desired result. And through the friendship, of course, Arjuna got the desired result. And by surrendering everything to the Lord, Bali Maharaj became the thing. So there are 9 processes, and role models are also explained. And so here Prabhupada is mentioned that the one that is explained in this mantra, the explanation of this mantra, is also found in Vedic hymns, is also found in Srimad Bhagavatam, and as Parikshit Maharaj gets the answers from Shukadeva. So Shukadeva Maharaj also asked this fundamental question in Bhagavatam, right? Maharaja Parikshit's main question was, what is the duty of every man, specifically at the time of death? And Shukadeva was said, everyone who desires to be free from all anxieties should always hear about, glorify and remember the personality of the Godhead, who is the supreme director of everything, the extinguisher of all difficulties and super soul of living entities. And this mantra is also related to this because it also talks about the topic of death. And Prabhupada goes on to explain, but in summary, he says, unless one is accustomed to devotional practice, what will he remember at the time of death, when the body is dislocated, and how can he pray to the Almighty Lord to remember his sacrifices? So here again, it means that we cannot get this kind of a feelings at the time of death unless until we practice throughout our life. Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing the senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. One can utilize the results of such practice at the time of death. Only then one can realize such practice at the time of. So this is a very important verse. You can go through this purport at your leisure. But important thing in this verse is, important thing is just to get the meaning of it, mood of it, and the context of it. Vayor anilam amritam athedam bhasmantam shariram om krato smara kratam smara krato smara kratam smara. So this also has got one practical application also. more and more we internalize this shloka in our hearts, even when we are doing something wrong, right? After realizing that we have done wrong, then we know that at the end or during our lifetime, Lord does remember. He has made a mechanism and a system and a process to know and remember what we do and what we are doing it. So the very fact we know that something is getting recorded, something is documented, should make us feel a bit hesitant to do that mistake over and over again. But despite all that, still we continue to do. But more and more we remember that this is there, less and lesser will be our wrongdoings. I'm not saying that overnight will change. It took, we have been practicing the wrong things for so many years, probably many births. So it's difficult to unwind. But at least in this life, if we start that journey of knowing that somebody is watching us, somebody is recording it, our behavior will change. It is just like that. When we drive, we follow the driving limits and be within the thing because of two things, right? We know that there is a camera, and if you drive more than a particular speed or whatever, it flashes and we get fined, right? The very fact that camera is there and camera is working makes us behave the way we should behave. And same way in some other places, they say this area is monitored by CCTV. The fact that if we become conscious about that, it itself will change our behavior a bit, because we know that everything is getting recorded. It can be replayed by someone and they can take action, right? So same thing, we should also know that God has got a super control room, or many control rooms and sub-control rooms throughout this universe, which are constantly recording what we are doing. It is just a matter of the thing that if he wants to do, he will quickly do. It's like if we want to search for anything, we nowadays go to Google, right? So everyone has every of our soul has got an identity, a unique identity. Just like that, in India you have Aadhaar ID, Aadhaar number. In Emirates ID, in United Arab Emirates, you have an Emirates ID, and together you have a passport ID. So there are so many IDs, even in our material words, for governments to identify us, right? Same way, God also will have it. So if we just click our number, our soul number, it will give him all the details. Just like the way Google gives us lakhs and lakhs of searches about some topic, Lord also can easily do. He has made that mechanism already in place, and it is working. If we believe that, that something is like that is there, that's why you see some kind of a method in madness in this material world, right? There are so many things that are predictable. Also, there is an unpredictable element is there, but there are a lot of things that can be predicted because there's a method, there's a process, there is something somebody has designed it. The very fact that if we have that belief in us, that helps us to become slightly better and better. And more we believe that there is a watchful eye and that something is recorded. And whatever good things that we are doing, he is the beneficiary. And at some point in time, we can request him to remember that, so that we can be granted a better life. And all this together will help us to lead a better life. But if we don't want to remember, nobody can help us. And we don't believe that we have to remember, nobody can help us. So it's up to us. The Vedas, the Isopanishad is a part of Yajurveda. Vedas are said to be Aporishaya. If we want to believe and change our life, it is fine. Otherwise, we have something God has already will make some arrangements for us to go through this life after life, birth after birth, and at some point in time, we will do it. And then the last shloka comes. The last shloka in the Isopanishad says, "O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your lotus feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past." So in the previous verse, he's saying that please remember what I have done and what was done by me. And here he's telling that you know what all I've done in the past. So that's what I tell, that there is a belief that somebody is watching, and that watching will, the result of that will take place. So he is accepting that somebody, God is watching his past. Please free me from the reactions of my past sins so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. So he knows the impact of the effect of the karma theory, and that karma has a part in the life, and is basically surrendering to say that, please remove the reaction so that I can progress. This is one form of prayer. And some devotees also pray, okay, I have done the past misdeeds, make me suffer so that I understand it, so that I don't do again. Or sometimes it's also said that devotees, if you are in the path of devotion, these past sins are nullified by somehow or other by the Lord. So this is how the Isopanishads ends, with a very serious prayer. Vayor anilam amrutam athedam bhasmantam shariram om kratam smara om kratam smara. So it ends with a prayer. So any comments on this? I just leave the floor for 2 minutes, and then we'll go to the overall summary.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. You are muted. Prabhu, you are mute. Jagan Prabhu.
Mother, I'm waiting for you to speak.
Okay, yeah. Prabhu, I have a question. Like, if somebody throughout her life does devotional service, and because of the age, last moment she cannot remember anything because of the age. So she cannot even tell that whatever I have done in the past, please remember to Krishna. And then what will happen to her?
No. Yeah, let me correct. The fact of the matter is, even if he or she doesn't tell, God remembers. That is the fundamental principle. We have to believe that. Got my point? We don't have to explicitly tell God that you please remember. Here, out of anxiety, devotee is doing that prayer. But in the end of shloka, if he is also confirmed that God remembers all the things. It's not that we have to tell God to remember. He remembers it, and we get what we have to get. So in the old days, if somebody is not able to remember, it's fine. It's not. So the 17th, the shloka that I insisted is not a shloka that one has to necessarily chant to make God remember. No, that is not the understanding. I hope I've clarified your point, Madhu.
Yeah, little bit.
Little bit, okay. What is that other bit that you didn't are not convinced or did not understand?
Yeah, because throughout our life we did something, so we can tell to God that whatever I have done, please remember.
Yeah. No,
But
that's what I'm telling, Madhu. You don't have to tell.
Okay.
You will remember. We should have that much faith in God.
Okay.
Remember. But just because he remembers, even though we know that he remembers, there's nothing wrong in we telling him, right? That's what he's saying.
Okay. Yeah, now
It's not that only if we tell he remembers. No. He's not like us, right? He's God. So he will remember. You got my point.
Yeah, now I know.
Yeah. So the knowledge of Isopanishads is taking us to that level of realization, to have firm faith that he knows our past, he knows our present, he knows our future. There's no need to make him remember, but we can get the right to tell him to remember if we follow a certain path of life. That's all it is being told. Is it clear, Mataji, now?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Okay. So So again, because there are regarding the karma, right? Here the devotee is saying that please remember, I've done a lot of heinous activities in the past, so please nullify them. So there are different types of the three types of activities that are there, which result pious or impious activities. One is sanchita karma, and one is a prarabdha karma, and one is agami karma. Okay, so the result of the activities that we get in from our previous lives is sanchita karma. So that's the payload that we bring into this world, right? And the activities that we do and that we also what do you call enjoy or feel this thing in this life is the prarabdha karma. So that's the thing that we bring from the previous things, and we continue to do that, and we also do certain things to enjoy or suffer. And then agami karma is something that we do now, but the fructification will happen sometime later, either in this life at a later point in time or in the next life. So there are things, sins or the active results of activities that are coming from our previous lives, and one which we are forced to enjoy or forced to face the consequences of those in this life, and then we are preparing the ground for the next life through our activities. So there are three types, and acharyas are telling that all these three can be negated if one goes through a devotional life. So in one case, what is the ground of that? Is that by doing devotional services, the propensity to make mistakes reduces. So in that way, we are safeguarding our future life. Point number one. And whatever the sins that we have committed in the past life, where we are going to face the consequences, we are taking it in a proper sense. Instead of complaining or whining and crying, we are understanding that it is only a result of our own activities that we have to face this. So we are in a dignified manner accepting that and facing. And over and top of it, we also have a belief that all these three types of sins that are there coming from our previous lives, and sins that we are forced to, results of the sin that we are forced to suffer or enjoy in this life, and the future ones can be taken out in straight away if we follow the path of bhakti. This is given in a shloka in Padma Purana, and of course in a very famous shloka in Brahma Samhita. Estrindu loka madhavendra madho swakarma. And then in that line it says, karmati nirdhati the kinchuta bhakti bhajam. The karmati nirdhati, it burns the things if we follow the devotion service. But how much of a quality that is there in our devotion service is a matter of question. But this is the principle that is given. So in the path of devotion, there is a chance that we can reduce the impact of bad in our lives. Again, it is person to person. Yeah, I hope I have answered your question, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
So now we'll just go very quickly on in next half an hour. We will conclude. I'll quickly go through. So the word Upanishad. Now I'm going into the overview of Isopanishads. Okay. So the word Upanishad, as we understood last time also, there are multiple meanings of this word Upanishad. One meaning is try to, this is a conclusive session. So this part, try to have an extra bit of attention of what is being told, because I'll be telling this and I'll again revise what I've told just now in a different form, so that we can be a bit interactive at that stage. So part A, I run through the revision overview, and part B is that we can have a small kind of an interactive thing if you allow me. Okay, so Upanishad means it brings us near, it's supposed to bring us near the Lord, just the way we have seen also, right? In the end, devotee wants to be near the Lord. He wants to see him in this personal form. He wants Lord to remove his reactions from in his deeds, and it loosens our bondage, material bondage. It also destroys our ignorance, and it helps us to be liberated from this material world. So these are the four things: brings us near the God, loosens one's bondage, destroys our ignorance, and helps us be liberated, or helps us to get liberation. And the process that we follow is that we have a process that is there from bottom up to top to getting the knowledge, and top to bottom. So in this, when we read these scriptures, we follow an avaroha pantha, that is knowledge coming from top. And there are process of knowledge is, one is a pratyaksha praman, anumana praman, shabda praman. Pratyaksha is by seeing, experimenting, anumana by hypothesis, shabda by hearing. So here we follow the thing that is coming from top, and the top is also coming as a shabda praman. And this path of coming down, avaroha pantha, and pranama is shabda praman, and the prasthanatraya, the whole knowledge is divided in three forms. One is Shruti, Smriti, Nyaya. Isopanishad comes under the Shruti. Smritis are Puranas, Itihasas, and Nyaya is Vedanta Sutras, abstract knowledge. Shruti is knowledge, a body of knowledge that is being revealed, and sometimes Shrutis do not have an exclusive one author of the body of knowledge. Isopanishad also, in a way, falls under the Shruti. So this is the overall thing. And what does Isopanishad contain? Okay, so kindly remember these points so that you can live with Isopanishad for a long time in life. First segment of Isopanishad covers the concept of living in harmony. What is that? Living in harmony. What does that living in harmony means? First and foremost is that we have to know the completeness and perfectness of the Lord. That Lord is complete and Lord is perfect. And nothing in this material world can fulfill the exact definition of complete and perfect. We can only aim to become perfect. That is excellence. We can only aim to become complete. That is our achievement. But we can never be complete. We can never be perfect. There is somebody who is perfect and somebody is complete, and that is God. And he is the one who knows everything. And somehow or other, he has given and allocated some quota to us for us to lead the life. What is that quota? We may not directly perceive it. It's very difficult for us to know. It cannot be like that I log into my bank account and see how much of savings that I have, how much is the account balance. I wish it would have been that easy, but it's not easy. So we do not know, but we need to know that there is some quota. We are only drawing from that quota in our lives. And why it is important is that if I know that I have a quota, that whatever I'm getting it, whatever I'm suffering, what am I enjoying through my deeds, either through my deeds in this life or through my deeds in the past life, or whatever things that are happening in my life, if I know that it is happening because a quota that is given to me, it helps me to be slightly away from three things. Jealous, that I feel bad. I see something is not there in me, but somebody's having it. It keeps pricking me. And then envy is slightly another form of jealous, where I not only feel bad, I want that what I don't have and what others have. And that causes me to have a very negative attitude. And that jealous and envy together, if you mix, and it becomes a very nice recipe to hatred. So I start hating. I tend to go to do something wrong to that person, and then the negativity, comparative attitude becomes too much uncontrollable, and then my life will be disturbed. Not only I become a cause of disturbance to myself, I become a cause of disturbance to others. Majority of the material life problems revolve around this comparative attitude, jealous, envy, and hatred. And it is very easy for me to say, I also suffer a lot with these. But by knowing and by studying these books and being with the satsang, we can always get into an introspective mode to control ourselves, to control these things. Am I getting jealous? Why am I feeling bad about something? Is it jealous? Is it envy? Is it hatred? If I don't control my jealous, if I don't control my enviousness, it will eventually become hatred, because that will manifest in some form. If suppose, if I'm jealous about somebody, for example, if I'm jealous about something of that Vasant Prabhu has it. If I don't control it over the time, it goes to envy, and that hatred with him comes. Even though externally I may be behaving very well with him. I'm saying I'll say Hare Krishna, I'll do that, but that hatred toward him will drive me to do something that might harm him. In that process, I may also harm. So living in harmony, completeness, perfectness, God is owner, God knows everything, and he has assigned a quota to us. So after a certain point in time, we should realize that how best we can use our quota than envying or being jealous of others' quota. But because for everybody, God has given something. So it is better to introspect and see what God has given me than to see what God has not given me. So automatically that changes the way we completely live in this world, right? So, and then if we carry our life with that attitude in mind, then all our activities will go into the akarma mode. That means we are not doing for anything for ourselves. We do it as an offering to the God. So whatever we do, even in the material activities, also turn into devotional activities, and we have a happy life. So the primary thing in the life, Isopanishad teaches, is living in harmony. Completeness, perfectness is there with God. He is the owner. He has assigned us a quota. And that very knowledge helps us to reduce our jealousy, enviousness, and hatred. And it turns our negative attitude to a positive attitude in life. And then all our activities in that mode becomes akarma. And we tend to have a happier life. So it's very important, because sometimes we always focus on the results that we have to get, right? I have to be kind, I have to get good career, I have to get good bonus, I have to have good body, or my son has to study, or my daughter has to become something. So we basically concentrate on the result, but we don't concentrate on the effort to get that result, because the result becomes so dominating in our minds. The effort to get the result becomes lesser and lesser. So if the effort to get the effort is focused more than the result will automatically follow. But it's a very strange in this material world. All of us suffer because we concentrate on the result than the effort. I keep thinking about how to give the class, that how people should appreciate me, how they should like it. I keep thinking about that more than actually preparing. If I forget about how people think or what they think, but if I do my study properly, my preparation properly, a very good chance that people may make like it, right? So there's a good example of this in there's a movie. Of course, it's a very idealistic movie taken on a very theoretical platform in a larger than life scenario. That is Three Idiots. I think most of you must have seen it. And I always want all parents to see that movie. It's a good movie in that way. It's got a movie taken with a nice social message, right? It talks about three protagonists, three actors, main actors who have a different path in life, and how the modern education system forces them to become slaves like that, and but how they inspire themselves to break those bonds and succeed. So in the last scene, Mahadevan and Amir Khan, and I think Kareena Kapoor, and there's one more person, I forgot the actor's name. They are there, and Mahadevan, who is a photographer, who is forced to do engineering which he doesn't like, and ultimately becomes a great photographer. He says one very good line. I like it. अक्सर लोग कामयाब के पीछे भागने लगते हैं, मगर वो लोग ये नहीं समझते हैं कि हम लोग काबिलियत के पीछे भागना है. अगर हम लोग काबिलियत के लिए पीछे अगर भागेंगे तो कामयाबी अपने आप भागते भागते अपने पास आएगा. That's how the penultimate dialogues, the picture is that. So people focus on the success, but actually they focus on the preparation to the success and become deserving. The God has made a system for deserving thing to come. So in that way, we live a life in a harmony. So that is what one of the fundamental things that Isopanishad is talking us, living in harmony, completeness, perfection. Lord is the owner. He has given us the quota. And if we know that quota, if we want to try to understand that quota, and we are safe in our life. And we can try. It's easy to say, but more and more we think about this, more and more we reduce the comparative attitude, more and more we reduce the jealous, then we ourselves will have some place in mind and time in life to think what we can do good for ourselves. But if we keep on putting the comparison element, jealous element, envious element, we don't have space to think and act the proper way. So this kind of scriptures, even though they tell the very simple things, they help us introspect in this manner. And if we carry these concepts in our life, simple things in our life becomes happier. Ultimately, we want to lead a happy life, right? So then the next section of Isopanishad cover how to get the spiritual vision, how to understand that God is perfect, how to understand that God is owner, how to understand that He is complete. So in order to understand it, there are two important things that we need to see. Is that we need to focus on His inconceivable potencies. The Lord is there, and how the very nature, if you see our own nature, the nature that is visible to us with our eyes, if we start looking at it, we see how inconceivable the Lord's energies are, right? Everything is happening automatically. Sun is rising, moon is rising, night is coming, day is coming, flowers are blossoming, different seasons, and everything is arranged in such a way. Something is giving somebody to something, somebody is giving something to something, and overall everything is going that cycle, and somebody is dying, somebody is coming, and His inconceivable potency is there. That is one first thing. If we appreciate that more and more, inconceivable potencies of the Lord. For this, the important thing is to read the life stories of great people, and so many stutis that are there in Bhagavatam, how the great rishis, devotees have prayed to the Lord in the form of His name, form, quality, pastimes, attributes. So many things are there, they pray, right? So that gives us the inconceivable thing. A lot of stotras are there, kavachas are there. It basically explains the inconceivable nature of the Lord. And then trying to see the Lord in relation, everything in relation with the Lord. When we see the nature, when we think about our own body, for example, how much complex it is, and everything, how is it working? So everything, if we start seeing in relationship with the Lord, and focus on His divine qualities. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vekti tattvataha. So then we get the spiritual vision. Then our whole attitude towards life changes. So the more and more our mind focuses on the spiritual element of life than the material element. So we tend to get ourselves slowly disengaged from the inferior energy. We being the marginal energy, we go and get connected to the superior energy. That's where the bliss of our devotion service starts. It's not easy, but at least thanks to Srila Prabhupada, he has given us so much of a knowledge in this aspect to get a spiritual vision. Jnana Chakshusha, because if you read through the purports of Srila Prabhupada, invariably we get some level of spiritual vision, because he has seen that vision, he has that vision, so he has given us. So Srimad Bhagavatam Chatushloki also, if you see, that also shows that we need to see everything in relationship with him, and everything in relationship with him is what is real, and so anything that is not in relationship with him, which it is not real. So there's nothing, it doesn't exist. And then understanding the three modes of material nature, and in Bhagavad Gita, divine and demonic qualities are also given. So by doing all this, we get a spiritual vision of seeing the Lord everywhere and seeing everything in relationship with the Lord, good or bad. So first is living in harmony to become happy and to understand, to get the spiritual vision. Isopanishad helps us in that way. And then it goes to tackle the point of knowledge. So it gives, there are two types of things: avidya, a knowledge that takes us to ignorance, and vidya is a knowledge that has a potency to take us to light. That it destroys the ignorance, darkness. However, in that process also, in this material world, if that vidya, what we get, which could potentially be very good to us, if it is misdirected, it can be very dangerous. Right? We can get into a very totally speculative mood, questioning everything, become atheistic, and so on and so forth. So avidya is not good. Vidya, misdirected vidya, is also not good. And in these Upanishad purports, we come to know that the modern education that we take, we also give our children, the so-called vidya, even though we call it vidya, modern education basically is leading people to darkness only, because modern education hardly tells anything about spiritual education. So for that, to fulfill that gap, is where that we need to attend satsang, we need to read books, we need to do devotional service. That gap has to be filled outside our education institutes. Education institute at one level, they give the moral education, ethical practices, but not beyond that. So Isopanishad basically also tells the importance of knowing both vidya and avidya also. And then it also, another section of it gives the importance of how do we know the independent existence of the Lord, and how do we understand our dependent existence on God. Sambhuti, asambhuti. Vidya, avidya, sambhuti, asambhuti. Sambhuti means independence existence. That is Lord himself. The qualities of the Lord, that he is independent of everything. He is perfect, he is complete, he knows everything, that's what is happening. Asambhuti is not an independent existence, dependent existence. All the people, including small insects to greatest demigods, are all on this category at various degrees. If we know this, then it's good. Then we know who is God, and we don't equate anybody who is not independent as independent. That is, even though we worship and pray to demigods, we know that they are also dependent on God to an extent, but they have more control and more power to execute. Yeah, that's all. So asambhuti, sambhuti. So these are the things that are given in Isopanishad to know the concept of dependence and independence, and whom we should depend on ultimately, and who are the people on whom we can also partially depend to fulfill our desires. And then vidya can be misdirected and can be dangerous, and we need to get some kind of a spiritual vision to see the existence of the Lord, and then we should know the Lord is complete and perfect. So this is, and a devotee can become entitled to pray to the Lord to make him remember, or to request him to remember what all he has done. And he also can be entitled, if he follows his life in a proper way, to whatever remaining impacts of the false activities that he has got, asking, requesting God to nullify that, petitioning to pardon, confessing the mistake. So this is what Isopanishad is all about. So I'll take few more minutes, if you don't mind, because it's the last concluding session. I'm slightly running behind schedule. So we'll quickly now, the interactive thing can happen, will happen. So in any text, is important thing is, one is that we can say that we have read the book, we've completed the combined study of that, but we need to carry that book with us, some learnings of the book with us. So that in that way, reading is one thing, remembering and smaran. Smaran is also very important. Unless it's, if we smaran, if you continuously remember that, then we again tend to read, again tend to talk about it, again we remember, and that cycle, you can keep on churning whatever we have learned, and then it becomes much more. Like suppose if you take the headlines of this topic, we learned God is complete, perfect, and He has given us a quota. And then we say that we need to develop spiritual vision. And then we need to know avidya and vidya together, and we need to know the dangers of it. And we also need to know the independence of the Lord and our dependence. That's all. If you remember and keep on remembering this, whenever these topics are taught, we tend to become more focused about those. And then the knowledge improves. Otherwise, if you just say that I've read the book and I finished the book, and we go, whatever we have learned and invested the time on learning the book goes away very fast. So it's important that we should not say that I've completed reading the book. We should say that I've read the book, but I'll keep reading the book in my mind throughout my life so that I can internalize whatever I learned to practice. So in that way, Paramatma Sandarbha gives a very good thing. Again, sorry, I'll be taking an extra time today. Apologies for that, but I think it's important for me to share this. I somehow feel it will be very useful to you, because it was very useful for me, this exercise. So now I'm going to tell you very important thing that I've learned from Hari Parshad Prabhu's class, from Paramatma Sandarbha. Whenever we read a text, whenever we read a pastime, we can remember that in 6 ways. Upakrama, Upasamharo, Abhyaso. I'll try to share the screen. This had helped me a lot in the last 2 years. Whenever I read this, I practice this. So, are you able to see this, Prabhu? Upakrama, Upasamharo, Abhyaso, Apurvata Phalam, Arthavada Topapati, Lingam Tatparya Nirnaya. So, if we take the Isopanishad as a text that we are reading, to analyze its beginning and conclusion. So can someone tell what is the beginning and end of Isopanishad? This is how we need to remember the texts. Can somebody unmute and tell?
Prabhu, living in harmony, Prabhu.
No, what is the beginning and end?
Om, Prabhu.
No, go a bit deeper. So this is the advantage of this shloka. Go a bit deeper.
Everything culminates to Lord, and like He is completely perfect and perfectly complete.
And end?
End it is destroy all my sins. Like
how do you
remember it?
So how do you connect it? So that's why, again, I repeat, it's important. This is how we need to introspect once we read a book. Because once we get the habit of doing this, while reading the book itself, we'll apply these principles. So if you ask me to answer this question, I will answer it saying that beginning of the book tells how to live, L-I-V-E.
Yeah.
End of the book is telling how to live, L-E-V-E. Beginning of the book tells how to live the harmonious life, and end of the book tells how to live harmoniously. Right? Am I right or wrong?
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. So
Yes,
we
yes.
always, when we start reading the book, we should understand what is it in the beginning and what is it end. We need to draw. And once we do this, imagine now, if I hope you are all listening attentively. If you get this point of Isopanishad is a book that gives us how to live, L-I-V-E, in the beginning of the book, and in the end it says how to leave the world also. It doesn't tell that you can, I mean, in one shloka it says you can continuously live if you are living the way you have to live, but eventually we have to leave also, L-E-V-E also, right? So that is the analysis of beginning and conclusion. And to see what is repeated in the text, in the 18 slokas, what is the theme that is getting repeated? Can someone try to answer this?
Mhm.
What is getting
Then
repeated? There could be-
everything to Lord Prabhu, like a Lord is complete and he is perfect.
No, what is repeating? What is the message that is repeating us in this book? In every section, after the end of every section, what is that thing that is repeating? If you see the very purpose of Isopanishad, as I told, what is the meaning of Isopanishad? Every section, living in the harmony of the God, spiritual vision, Vidya, Sambhuti, Asambhuti, it is bringing us towards the Lord. That message is continuous. Every step, if you see, harmony is also bringing us towards the Lord. Spiritual vision is also helping us to come near the Lord. Knowing Vidya, Avidya is also bringing us near the Lord. Knowing demigods and God's worship, again bringing us near the God. And in the end, too much near the God. It's helping us to do a prayer to remove the effulgence of the Lord, and we can see the Lord. So the whole thing, that a message that is repeating throughout the text, underlying current, we say, right, brings us near the Lord. Am I right? Anyone wants to comment on this?
Yes, Prabhu. Upanishad, no, Prabhu. You are telling Upanishad. It takes near to the Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
And it shows the way how to devise our life and why we have to devise our life. What are all the things happening in our life which is taking us away, or what we are the things which should happen in our life which can take towards the Lord.
And this is a continuous theme. It keeps repeating everywhere. And to see what is unique in this Isopanishad. Can someone comment on that? There is something
To know
very
good and bad, like Vidya and Avidya, Sambhuti and Asambhuti, both we need to.
very good. Thanks a lot. Normally, when we read a text, we say only, you need to know good only. You don't need to know bad, right? But Isopanishad has got a very unique flavor. It is basically telling us that we need to know both. There has to be a balance in understanding of Vidya and Avidya. Knowledge and ignorance, knowledge and ignorance. Asambhuti. We need to know about demigod, their worship, the connection with the Lord. Also, we need to also know the importance of worshipping the Supreme Lord. We need to know both. Then only our knowledge is balanced. And it gives us a very broad-minded approach to understanding the science of God. Very, very unique. It is not a one-sided thing that, oh, okay, this is what it is. So it's very, very unique in that way that you can remember. And what is the result of studying this text? And what is repeated in this case, it's also what is the results of studying the text. And I primarily, Upanishads, they bring us to the Lord. That's the first result. Loosens our bondage. Material bondage gets loosened a bit, and our ignorance is destroyed. And then we kind of materially, from material thing, pangs, we get liberated. That is the result of course, this could be a common result of many texts. But another one very good result of this Isopanishad is, since it's basically a knowledge-based scripture, the importance of having proper knowledge is once again re-emphasized as a result of studying this text. By the result of studying this text is that The whole concept of God in simple, less than 20 verses are segmented in such a nice fashion that we can use these headlines to further increase our knowledge. So that is the result of this text. So it's not a very large volume of text of hundreds of thousands of shlokas. Simple, less than 20, compact, concise, to the point. And to see what is glorified in the text. Of course, what is glorified in the text? Can someone answer?
Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah. What in Supreme Personality of the Godhead?
His
quality
complete,
and
his
plan of
complete.
Yeah, his attributes. More than his attributes, what is glorified?
His relation.
Pardon?
it's a relationship to the material world, Prabhu.
Oh, his form.
Yeah,
Ultimately,
form. Okay.
what is the devotee asking? Sir, please remove your effulgence. I want to see you. So first, even though it starts with the attributes of the Lord, here his form is glorified. And that is also very unique because Vedas by themselves are very abstract. They don't normally, there's a bit of a, borderline thing between impersonal and personal thing. But Isopanishad is one such Upanishad where we are clearly glorifying the form of the Lord as one of the attributes, right? Because devotee wants to see the Lord as he is without any coverings, right? So form is Lord of the glorified. And to analyze any logic or reasoning given in the text, can somebody answer this? This it need not be, we have discussed this, right?
Oh, this is Sambhuti, Asambhuti, and Vidya, Avidya.
Correct, very good. But can you go a bit deeper?
And how to connect to the Vidya and how to connect to the this one, Prabhu, like a Sambudhi, and how to make it as a practical in the life.
Yeah, one more layer will be, what is that logic? That
How
logic, that logic
take-
that surprises us, that a logic that surprises us, that, sorry, Prabhu, yeah, Vasant Prabhu, you're telling something, sorry.
how that is taking closer to the Lord. And in one particular thing, like the Sambudhi, Asambudhi was more than like a Asambudhi, Sambudhi, like a misguided, like a thing for
Yeah. Yes.
Sambudhi. Yeah.
Yes. It's very difficult to understand a statement that Vidya can be dangerous than Avidya. Do we normally come across a statement saying that Vidya can be dangerous, more dangerous than Avidya? So that's a logic with which Isopanishad gives us that Vidya is also can be more dangerous than Avidya if the Vidya is misdirected. So we should not be very happy that we are getting Vidya. That means, like a good example is that we may think that some people go to here and there, right? To that personality, this thing without a authorized base of teachings, they may think that they're also getting a lot of Vidya. But actually what they're getting Vidya is worse than the Avidya. Because that Vidya is getting them into a totally different path. And if they have to come out, they have to unwind themselves to come. But a person who is in Avidya, if the light is not there and if the light is on, you will be okay. But a misdirected Avidya person is living in a dim light. So it's very difficult to tell him that you are in ignorance, you are in darkness. No, he said, no, I'm not in darkness, I'm seeing. So how do I tell him that there's a better light? So to get him for him to come back to the normal track is very difficult. So this logic that don't be happy that you're getting so-called Vidya, but to know that Vidya is not misdirected, that Vidya that you have is authorized and authenticated and coming from Guru Sadhu Shastra is an important thing. So we should keep on questioning ourselves. Am I getting the right Vidya? Is it leading me to understand Lord more and more? There is a propensity for me to do mistakes and go here and there, but am I in the track? So that consciousness we should have, otherwise we become proud and we may lose our track or change our tracks. So that's the logic it presents, that it gives a reasoning. Don't be complacent, just thinking that I'm having Vidya. No, you should know proper Vidya. It should not be misdirected. So this is the way we can understand the scriptures. So always remember the 6 bullet points whenever you read a book, you read a story. It need not, you don't have to force yourself, fight towards to understand and put all the 6 points. When you read some books, only 2 or 3 points may be relevant. Not all 6 may be relevant. In some books, only 1 point may be relevant. But to start the book, even before you start the book, if you think that after I finish the last page, I should be able to answer these questions, whichever is appropriate. Again, I'm saying all 6 may not be applicable for every book or every text that we read, but more or less, if I should be able to tell you, these are the questions that we should ask. I should be able to tell what is the beginning, what is the end. I should be able to tell if something is repeated, I should be able to pick up what is being repeated. If something is very unique that I find in the text, I should be able to pick up that uniqueness. If I should see what is the result of reading this book, otherwise, why should I read the book? And I should see, is there anything that is glorified? Is God is glorified? Are the devotees glorified? Or the activities of devotees glorified? Or is a place that is glorified? Or is the language that is glorified? Something is getting glorified, right? And is there any logical reasoning given in the text to make me convinced about what is being presented is correct or wrong? If we keep these 6 bullets in our mind when we read the book stays with us. That is the most important thing. Okay. So I kindly leave this as my year-end message. Analyze the beginning and end, what is repeated, see what is unique, see what's the result of reading the book or text, who is glorified, what is glorified, analyze the logic. Because why it's important is, when we undertake any of these activities, right, we see it as a complete and end. That is good. There's no doubt about it. We need to see an end in mind, right? Otherwise, how can be that? In the project management also, it says that, they say it, right? The very definition of the project is that it should have a beginning and an end. That is valid. This also has to be a milestone, right? But in some good activities that we do, which is important to our life, we should not have an end. We should have only a comma or a semicolon. That means we will continue this. So reading a book is not an end, because that book has to stay with us. If we consider that reading the book is an end, we can only say that we have read the book, but that we are not carrying the book. We need to carry the book. So the fact that we should think that it is not end, it will make us remember that book. So recently I read one very good post which my friend has sent. I want to share. That's a very important lesson that I've learned, and I also shared with my wife. Is that the concept of why that sometimes we want to remember, but we forget to remember. Like, for example, if we come to a session like a class like this or an NBS that we attend, our main goal is that, okay, I have to attend this class, and then the class will end. After the classes end, I have other activities to do, right? So I get into that. So the moment I think that the NBS class has ended, that itself, my mind, it gives a signal to my mind, whatever happened in that class, you can close it off. Because I ended that activity. So there's another activity, another thought that is already, churning in my mind to take care of it, right? So that's why whatever we listen there, 80-90% gets drained out immediately. And 10% whatever is there after 1 week, it goes out. Because we are putting an end to that thing. Same with book. So there is one very good incident one psychologist has mentioned. There's actually a medical term for it. I forgot the name of the medical term. The story is like, it's a real life story. A doctor and a psychologist with along her friends goes to today again, I apologize, I'm taking more time, but this is one important lesson that I learned. I think it will be very useful to you all. So she goes to a restaurant, a good restaurant, with her friends to celebrate something, right? An event or something. So when they go to the restaurant, the waiter, is there. He approaches them, he greets them, and he starts taking the order for each of them. And when each of them gives, like, I want a pizza with that topping or this topping, I want something, I want something. And he's basically listening to all of them, but he's not writing anything. And she, being a psychologist, psychologists have a tendency to observe things more closely than us. She's thinking, what the hell is doing? This guy is not taking anything down. And anyway, she lets it go. And when that person brings to all these people, 6, 7 people, who are given different kinds of orders, different kinds of choices of things that they want to eat, he exactly gets what has been ordered and places in front of exactly the same person what they've ordered. So basically, in that very short span of time, he probably would have to remember 50 or 60 things that he has to get exactly like that, right? She's pretty appreciative. She mentally, she really thinks that this guy is very good, having a lot of memory. And she tend to see around the restaurant also. And all the waiters also doing the same thing. None of them has got any paper or any mobile or an iPad to do that. She says, oh my God, this restaurant has got a people with a lot of good memory and intelligence. And of course, they have the lunch and they enjoy the lunch and they finish and they're going back to their homes. And while she's driving back, she suddenly realizes that she has forgotten her jacket, a very costly jacket that she has got. Oh, she gets worried. And then she immediately takes a U-turn to go to the hotel. So while she was driving back to the hotel, she was very confident because she's confident because she'll definitely get the jacket, because she knows that waiter would have definitely seen the jacket after they left, and waiter also knows whose that jacket belongs to, because waiter seems to be having a lot of memory. So when she goes back to the hotel and says that I just now came and sees this waiter and says that we came few hours back and we had a nice lunch, a nice dinner, and I left my jacket. Can you tell me where is it? Then he says, who are you? I don't remember that you have come. She's a bit shocked. And it takes her a lot of time and effort to prove that she has come. And then she retrieves the jacket and somebody gives her the jacket and she's driving back. And she's thinking that how come this guy who could remember such a complicated list of items to be delivered without noting down anything, I've just forgotten after just 1 hour that who I was. And that gives rise to her. And then she started meditating on that. Oh my God, there is something about human psychology in this. And then after doing a lot of research and empirical study and contacting so many people, she came with a concept that this happens because we do a closure. Though in the restaurant, they are taught to be mindful and to have the super concentration to remember for a very short span of time while they take the order. And they are also taught to forget it because they have to go to another place, another table to take the order, right? So the moment you give, what she concluded is, if you mentally conclude something that you have done, you forget it. You forget the preceding action and you go into the next thing that you want to remember. And that's how the life goes. And in that process, that is also good because we cannot be remembering everything, right? Our mind becomes too heavy. But if you think that something is important, never give a full stop. So in the context, I want to say that don't think that we have read Isopanishad. Think that we are beginning to understand Isopanishad. Then these points will remember for long and we can keep on churning. And that's how she coined a word that so that for important things, if you want to remember for long, don't think that we have completed it. Just if you want to give a pause, you put a pause, you put a comma, you put. If you are reading a chapter in Bhagavad Gita, or you are reading a purport in, but don't think that I've completed the reading. No. I've started remembering the purport. Not that I've read the purport. I've started remembering the purport. If you do this, our retention capacity will increase. And our retention capacity will increase and we will start internalizing it. And she also gives an example of that remembrance. Sometimes we come home, right? It happens with my wife. While we are driving back home, her idea is, once she gets out of the car and gets into the house, that activity is complete. But what is the preceding activity that she has done to come into the house, she forgets. Because after coming to the home, she has n number of activities to do. So that's the reason why sometimes when she comes home and she unlocks the door and leaves the key in the door. Many times it happened to the front door. Many times. Because for her, coming in is an activity. But coming in, there is a preceding activity that you have to remove the key. It doesn't register in her. Because somehow her mind got tuned. The moment the door is open, that's it. My job is done. I've come home. There is somebody to take care of it or something like that. So this is a very good example, practical example. I'm just taking an example of my wife. I also do that. But what helped me this understanding is that when I decide, when I'm getting into an activity, is this activity important for me? What is important for me? Then I think, I meditate on that, and I am not putting a full stop for that to the extent possible, so that I can retain it for some more time. So if we can extend that retention period of a class that we hear in a Sunday feast or an NBS from 1 hour to a day or a couple of days, that is good enough. In those days, we can do a manthan. You can churn that thing what we have learned, and it gets retained in our mind more. In that way, our reading, our listening can be very fulfilling, and then that will help us move forward in life. And then we start seeing the result of those. Otherwise, we may see that we are reading, we are listening so much, but nothing is happening to us. Why? Because we are draining out. We are putting a full stop at each point and then going to the next activity. So these two things, the way we need to read to the scriptures, the 6 points that I've told, and the concept that don't put full stop, think that we have started understanding the Isopanishads from today. And remember those points: living in harmony, spiritual vision, vidya, sambhuti, asambhuti, and ultimately praying to the Lord to see his real form. And ultimately praying to the Lord to forgive us, to let our past reactions, our past deeds be taken care, so that we can start our journey much better, more confident, with more hope. So this is what I wanted to share, devotees. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Again, once again, we should all thank ourselves for getting this opportunity to read and discuss about Isopanishads, even though all of you may not have attended all sessions. But today I think we tried to cover the summary substance of it. So that's how we conclude. And apologies that I've taken more time today, because it's important session. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for nice lectures. And I want to pray for Madhu Prabhu and Geeta Mataji's daughter, who is in States. So she is going to deliver in January 1st week. So please pray for her. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I think Madhu Prabhu is in States now.
Oh.
Thanks a lot, Prabhu, for wonderful summarization. Today's class was very memorable one. You just covered it in a very short way and very quick, Prabhu.
So we will end this meeting now, with your permission.
Sir, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
So you will all give me a promise that you will read Vayor Anilam Amrutam as a New Year resolution, and also
Yes.
don't put a full stop to Isopanishad, it's only comma. If you put a full stop, you will forget everything. Yeah, and that psychologist, whatever she has learned, you try to get and implement in your life. It makes, and whenever you read the text, you remember those points: beginning and conclusion, uniqueness, glorification, what's the result, what am I getting, and it'll immensely help you in your journey. It also, we can also teach the same thing to our children when they study their normal lessons. Yeah, so it's very important. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Those 6 points, can you just share in the group, Prabhu?
Yeah, yes, Mataji, I can share.
Thank you. Prabhuji, and one more thing is, the beginning and the end, whatever we are learning from a text or any of the book, may differ from person to person, right? Prabhu?
Yeah. Everything differs from person to person.
But uniqueness will be same, no?
Need not be, Mataji, because the text may have so many things, right? It could be different, but the not is that everybody has to be in the same page. The concept, the principles, everybody has to apply. Because the level of understanding you may have, I may not have it when I read the text, right?
So it depends on the people's depth of the knowledge and the purpose for which they are diving into. That also matters sometimes, right?
But more we dive, more we enjoy.
Hmm.
That's the concept.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, take care, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.